I'm Tobias from Astralis, and welcome to Thorin's YouTube channel. It's a choke-free zone.
The age of Astralis, the Danish CSGO era of dominance, continues as Astralis wins IEM XIII Chicago. This is their 7th title of the year, their 6th notable big international title. I don't count the Blast Pro Series Istanbul because it's a very limited format and the teams there weren't actually very high quality. It's their 8th final, assuming again you don't count in terms of notable ones. So incredible year, and it just continues for Astralis. But what made this one so interesting is whether or not Astralis is permanently going to have moved into this. Because yes, they did lose at Blast Pro Series Copenhagen and not even make the final. They've lost sometimes in the past, but they've always followed it up with monster performances. I really want to see how they follow up this tournament performance, whether at the next tournament they're also rocky, whether people can take them. Because this was a much more difficult win than any of the others they've had this year. In fact, they were tested even more than some of the tournaments they've lost, like IEM Sydney, for example, where they were great all the way up to the final, but then ended up losing to FaZe Clan. But aside from that, were amazing against everyone else. At this tournament, they were really tested, and this reminded me, actually, of the phase that a lot of elite teams get in, where they're dominant for, say, the 6 months, where they're the #1 team. We're talking about the greatest teams of all time here. And then they'll kick into a phase where they still manage to win, but now they lose maps. Now they lose series. Now other teams have monster performances. Now other teams are so close. Sometimes they even lose and they have to steal back wins. That's the thing. You're not just winning because you're just better than the opponent in every way and you're just blowing them out the server anymore. Now you've got to the phase where it's about using the knowledge of how to win, not just beating the team in terms of pure better CS or better individual performance. So I want to see, has Astralis kicked into that mode, in which case the next few months is going to be them stealing wins still? Or is this just a one-off and actually they go right back to being amazing like they did after DreamHack Stockholm going to the FaceIt Major, and they're purely dominant again and people aren't even getting double-digit rounds against them? Because this tournament, a lot of people managed to get some very solid map wins or maps in terms of getting close to them in the tournament. So this was much more tested, much more difficult. In some ways, that actually made the win more impressive, because this time they had to give what you call a champion's win. You know that whole narrative we had of, like, if you get Astralis close, though, they can break. I don't think that even applies anymore after watching Astralis the last few months. Like, yeah, they have lost, but they've lost when people have actually managed to outplay them, when people have gotten to their level or when their levels dipped. They don't tend to just break and mentally collapse, actually. If anything, they stay in the game and they actually win a lot of their games in that way. And it's the other team that's got the bullshit sub-story of, like, oh, we were so close. Oh, if this one round went different. Oh, we almost reset them. Oh, but we had map 1 and we were leading 11-4 in the second. Every elite all-time great team has a line of losers behind them with the same sob story of, like, oh, we were so close, or we should have won that map, or they just got lucky here. And it's like, you know what? You don't get lucky like that when you're a great champion. There's a reason why you keep winning, even when you're not having your best game, even when things didn't go perfectly, even when other people front run against you. Obviously, the old Astralis lineups often thought of as front runners who couldn't handle it when he kept the pace with them and put the pressure on them late, especially individually. So I will say, even though I say this is more impressive because they had to dig so deep and this was a real champion's win, a professional player's win, it's also obviously more impressive on another level just to crush everyone. So take that with a pinch of salt. Now, if we go through the tournament, so they started out with the best of one against MVP Project. Easy win all in all. I don't know why MVP Project's letting the map go to Nuke, but fair play to MVP. I know they definitely play Nuke. It's one of their best maps. And the fact that they had the gall and the balls, quite frankly, to go against Astralis, that's impressive. And I can see why, because they had the 7 T rounds. That was actually pretty legit. Problem is, when you switch to CT side, we know that unless you can literally win the CT side, you're probably not going to beat Astralis, which is why nobody has on Nuke. And yes, you know what? Astralis absolutely banged the Koreans the fuck out the server, and it was irrelevant on the second side what they'd done on the first side. Then they go against the fellow Danes of North, so you'd hope because of the interregional matchup, it's going to be close, blah, blah, blah. Nope, it wasn't. It was an easy 2-0. North looked really out of their element. The map pool went completely against them. Nothing to be said there. Who gives a fuck? Then we had the winners match in the group with FaZe Clan. Now, FaZe Clan, sure, 1 episode looked amazing. But then they went to the Blast Pro Series, and they didn't look that great, actually. You thought, oh, well, maybe it was just a one-off. Now, Nico had been looking sick individually, but was his in-game leading really going to kick over? Is he going to be one of the best in-game leaders and best fraggers? Seems doubtful, right? This was a fucking statement game, seemingly, because FaZe beat these guys 2-0. That's the other thing. Even if Astralis loses, it's 16-14. Even if Astralis loses the series, it's 3 maps. They're still in position to win the series. Actually, Astralis was never in position to win this series. The only map that was close was Inferno, which was overtime. And that's obviously a map that you've wanted to see come online for FaZe, because they need it along with Mirage and potentially Overpass to be really good, and maybe a bit of Dust too. The Mirage game was very dominant, and obviously FaZe has looked fantastic on Mirage since Nico took over as in-game leader. Admittedly, admittedly, they looked shit later on against Team Liquid, but whatever, these things happen. I just wish we'd gotten to see the third map Dust 2, because you know what? The way the FaZe Clan was playing here, even if Astralis stole away the overtime on Inferno, I think FaZe Clan wins this Dust 2. They're looking amazing in this series. Nico was in God mode individually. What a fucking player he is. Now, I will say it was a weak performance at times from Astralis. Fragging-wise, they weren't there. Their T-sides were not what you'd expect of them at all, especially on maps like Inferno, like Mirage. You'd expect them to fucking get work done here. But fair play to FaZe Clan for a legit, very impressive win over Astralis. So then we go into the quarterfinals, and we have Mouse Sports, now with Sticko back in the lineup, against Astralis. This, I know it looked close on Nuke, but overall, this was fairly convincing. Like, for me, it was very significant that Mouse Sports picked Train. Great move. Everyone thinks to themselves, Train's map, we can have a chance to win against them on. Mouse Sports, with this lineup and the previous one, always good on this map, particularly good when they had Sticko in the past. This wasn't close at all on Train. It was a fucking blowout, even though that's Mouse Sports' pick. Astralis were the ones doing the blowing out. Shows how fucking ridiculous they are. Also shows the predicament people are in trying to pick versus Astralis right now. Because the conventional wisdom before was like, try Dust 2, they haven't played it much. Nah, shit, that doesn't work actually. This 16-0 demo IBR. Try Train, you know, they haven't played that for... Oh, shit, yeah, everyone's trying that. That's not working either, you know. Like, where are you supposed to go against these guys? You're already bad in cash, you can't get to that. The angle, by the way, about how Cobblestone's the reason why they're dominant right now, this is a perfect example now. Someone picked a map they don't even play very often, like people did a little while ago with Dust 2 as well, and it still didn't work. They still fucking win, and they still win dominantly, and they still win Series 2-0, very rarely even go to 3 maps. But when they did go to 3 maps, was against Fnatic. Now, this was the best series anyone has played against this Fnatic team. I would actually say probably since the IEM Sydney final. I don't think even the North game against them was this impressive. North just had one particularly impressive second half of the decider as far as I'm concerned. I know the Dust 2 game was crazy, but it's just Dust 2. It was very variable back then. This was a very good performance from Fnatic, because this wasn't like Astralis was just dragging their heels completely. JW and Crims particularly impressed me. Obviously veteran players and players who have done well and been able to play against teams like Astralis in the past when they were TSM and Dignitas. So the first game was Dust 2, and it was so big for Astralis that they won this map and narrowly stole it, because this big CT half they had saved their fucking bacon in this series. Otherwise, I'm saying Fnatic 2-0s this motherfucker. Then Fnatic goes to Mirage, a map that we've seen start to be a problem for Astralis, and obviously one of the best for Fnatic and best for a player like Crims. Fnatic takes it, and okay, you're not going to get a big win over Astralis usually, but 16-12 is legit. Astralis not strong enough on the T side. You'd expect actually that the Astralis of 2 months ago, given that much wiggle room going on the T side, would bang out 8-9 rounds and it'd be their game, right? No. Fnatic was able to show a very strong CT side, which obviously some of their players are famously strong on this map. The decider was Inferno. What a great decider, right? Because we know Fnatic likes it. We know it's one of the favourite maps of Astralis and one of their absolute best. I'll say it right now. Fnatic had this team bang to rights on this map. Fnatic, by almost every normal metric, if you want to use the should, okay, would have won. How about that? But it was so beautiful the way Astralis came back on this one, especially because they had to do it on the T side, they had to grind it out, they had to manage the economy very well, they had to manage utility, they had to find the right entries because they were right up against the wire, they had no room for margin for error. What a fabulous series, what a true champion series this was. Because, as I say, by all normal metrics, Fnatic could win every single map in this series. Maybe they should even have. And they actually, in the series, looked like the better team overall. But this is what you're talking about when you're talking about truly great, all-time great teams. Teams that are in eras. They can make fucking magic happen like this one, and it was incredible. So then we go to the final. You know what? Astralis has already been banged out by FaZe, had a really tough series against Fnatic. Even Mouse Sports taking them close on Nuke. MVP's got in the first half that's solid on Nuke. Hey, maybe they're actually beatable now. They're looking fucking vulnerable, right? Team Liquid's in the final after dominant performance against FaZe. This is the time, right? This is Team Liquid's chance. Vulnerable Astralis. Now, yeah, the map pool's a nightmare, as I pointed out in my article. Maybe I'll link it below. Yeah, there's nothing you can do there. You're going to have to, basically, if you're Team Liquid, win on some of your best maps, which happen to be maps that Astralis is very good on as well. Particularly, I was looking for wins on Mirage. Other people have been able to do it. Potentially on Inferno. We know Team Liquid bought their absolute best game. They could potentially win there. They already did it at the major. And maybe Nuke. I mean, Team Liquid actually, if you take out the Astralis games, Astralis is the best team ever on this map so far. Astralis, Team Liquid was 7-2 on Nuke. They're a good Nuke team. So it's either going to be them or Na'Vi, the other very good Nuke teams, or maybe the Mousespots team now they got back together. It's going to be one of these best Nuke teams you would imagine who, if they're not the team to break the streak, eventually beats Astralis on this map. So I actually thought that's another chance. These are the maps coming up first, right? Nope, never happened. Astralis comes along. I mean, Team Liquid fucking helped them, but they looked amazing in this final. Now, Mirage was close. Team Liquid didn't have the T side to execute. If you want to beat Astralis, you better be able to execute on your CT side, on your T side. Nuke was a fucking blowout. Astralis is now 24-0 on that map. My God, I don't even care what the numbers say. They are easily the best team on any map to ever be played in CS:GO. Then you go to what ended up being the decider, Inferno. Another fucking blowout. And this is supposed to be Team Liquid's best map. This is their home map. And they're getting blown the fuck out. Now, sure, I would say Astralis is better on it, but you shouldn't be getting blown out. And this is a map that can always be close if you play very well. Team Liquid just shit the bed completely in this one. The firepower disappeared completely after map 1. OllieJ was shit on map 1, and probably the main reason they lost map 1. And then he was terrible the rest of the series as well. Overall, like, just a lackluster performance from Team Liquid. But again, what a monster performance by Astralis. Team Liquid, as good as they are, and they are a very good team, they know how to fucking make Team Liquid, Astralis look good. Everyone else in finals has been able to beat Team Liquid, but not like this. This is fucking ridiculous shit. Now, what was amazing about this as well was it was a real team effort. I know normally it's a team effort, but it's normally a team effort like everyone's stats look inflated and they're fucking banging everyone. This time, it was ridiculously so a team effort because practically nobody seemed to be playing anywhere close to peak CS, yet they won the final 3-0, a bunch of the matches 2-0, and still managed to actually win the title. You could basically argue, okay, maybe Xyp9x played peak CS, he played very, very well. Everyone else had pretty pedestrian stats, actually. Like, when you were looking for, like, devices numbers, okay, he's the MVP, had the best performances overall, I think, but he wasn't anywhere close to what you'd expect from a Simple or Nico or Twists if they were going to win this tournament. So it shows what an insanely good team Astralis is. You can look at each player and see a different time when they shine. So against North, it was obviously the Dupree show. He was tearing them up. Device had his amazing game against Mousespots, particularly the Nuke one, where he ensured that the series didn't go to 3 maps. Xyp9x had his Inferno against Fnatic, which is basically the reason why Astralis could even get to the final instead of being forced to finish top 4. What's great about this Astralis team is they cheated death and won when they weren't supposed to. They won with their C game. They didn't need to be on their best game, hitting all their shots, like stepping up. They weren't doing any of that shit, but they managed to win the tournament. They still 3-0'd the final. This just shows you can never let a great champion catch his breath or let him get away with mistakes. If you do, you're going to find out the reason he's a great champion is he doesn't keep making mistakes all the time. He doesn't keep his level low. He can peak at the end of a game and steal it away from you. It also shows you how dominant this area is from Astralis because nobody can properly match up with them. To truly threaten them, I'm talking about. To really, each time you face them, know that you can beat them or at very least take them all the way to the limit. No one can say that. A lot of people can say, oh, we got close that one time. Next time it didn't work out for us. Oh, we got one map this time. That's a big deal. So few people can even get to 3 maps against Astralis. Nobody can 2-0 them. I'm amazed FaZe Clan did. That was actually a pretty impressive game from them. Too bad they shit their bed against Team Liquid. Would have been an interesting final, right? I'd still have Astralis win 3-1, but I think it could have been a fun one. Now, I also think it's worth pointing out, it's still so hard to win a fucking map off this team. They didn't play that great this tournament. They still barely lost maps. Only FaZe did it with big numbers, by the way. Like, in the recent months, there's only them, North in the final of DreamHack Stockholm, and then I think Na'Vi at Blast Pro Series Istanbul. I think these are the only teams that have even kept Astralis under double digits. That's how ridiculous they are. Now, they did show some map pool weakness here. If you can get them to Mirage and you're a good Mirage team, you got a chance to beat them. Nobody at the moment's picking Overpass against them, but if you're a good Overpass team, admittedly there aren't really many at the moment, you got a chance against them. Beyond that, the rest of the maps don't really give you anything. Like Inferno's a nightmare. Nuke, nobody can beat against them. Nobody can beat them on. Train, we've seen, isn't actually a punish. Dust 2 isn't a punish. Like, it's real tough to find spots against them. But that's because they are the best team in the world. Maybe the best team to ever play CSGO. This video was kindly supported by Andreas, Snazore, Westerlund, Dean Tanglis, Gardner Wilson, Landon Thompson, Tobias Bernasconi, OllieJ, NateDOhDoubleG, Kyla Harris, Travis Greb, Daniel Yordanov, James Harding, VeXii, Robert Baxter, Lucas Kerza Szczesny, and a special thanks, as always, goes out to my man, Jerky's Minion. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest to feature in my upcoming content? Perhaps you want to ask me a question in my monthly AMA. Do you want teasers from my upcoming content? See who the next guests are going to be. Perhaps you'd like to take part in a discussion about esports with me. Well, Any and all of the above exclusives are available for my patrons, so put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today at the Patreon link below.